I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Welcome to the MPG Podcast. I'm your host, John Grable from the Florida MPG Studio.
Florida MPG Studio. Now we're traveling here, boys. we got an Audubon studio and a Florida studio now.
That's right.
We're expanding.
Right. The Florida studio is mobile though; it goes everywhere.
That's the mobile studio that goes from hotel to hotel and then house.
That's right. And we're joined here with Jordan Missig.
Yes.
How is it going, Jordan? You had a fantastic weekend.
Fantastic weekend, to say the least, yes. Came back from Road Atlanta just about a couple days ago. Now getting back in the swing of things back here with school to finish up my final semester and everything. So got 1 month left. It is, April Fool's Day. So April 1st, the opening day of here at the Audubon as well. So there's some lifelike here at the track and everything, and everyone seems to be happy.
Oh, outstanding. Well, so you show up to Road Atlanta, the first race of FR America.
Yes.
America's first race. And how did practice go?
Well, practice obviously was on a Thursday and then kind of on a Friday as well. Thursday was mainly a wash. It rained all day. It didn't even let up in the slightest. So we were on rain tires for most of the day. Now, the series that we're only given 2 sets of rain tires throughout the weekend once you're able to put them on. So we already had our 2 sets of rain tires. I mean, other teams could have had an extra set. But we were just trying to be conservative on our tires a little bit and just trying to take things easy and trying to use them for the race and qualifying. So we were just being very, gentle on the tires, trying to kind of get a feel for what the track's like while also not putting too much abrasion on tires. But we were also betting in brakes and rotors as well to start off the year. So, I mean, the whole first day was kind of a wash for us, and we were just kind of putzing around a little bit for the first practice day. And then the second practice day, it rained in the morning. And then kind of dried up for our first official practice, first and only. And then we went out on dry tires, but there were some corners at the apex curbs where there was still water. So we had to kind of stay offline a little bit, use a little bit of the rain line because that's where all the grip was, and that's where it was kind of dried up. So we kind of had to do that and then kind of to go through some puddles of water here and there because there was just no racing line. So then we just had to take it easy under braking the entrance to the corners to not lose the rear of the car or lose any traction from the tires. So that was that for the practice sessions, and then we got to qualifying, which we've got to put new set of slicks on, and the track was actually very dry by that time, so it was a very dry session for qualifying, which we were able to put in the 5th fastest lap for that qualifying session.
Nice. And so describe to me, so you said some of the puddles. How do you know when you get out there what puddles you can go through and what puddles you have to avoid for grip?
So it kind of does with experience sometimes. A lot of it has to do with based on how your tires can get up to. Obviously you're getting friction and temperature into the tires, and that creates heat. So every time you go over a water or two, or like stream of water or two, when you have heat in the tire, it tends to dry it up quicker. So yeah, the tires will get heat, or they'll get water on the tires, but then with the heat in it, it dries up really quickly. So you barely even feel the heat. Feel the water sometimes hitting the tires. But yeah, when you ever put like any wheel input into like the car when you have wet puddles that you're going over, you generally don't want to have any wheel into it at all because that's just when it breaks the traction and the slip from the traction from the tire to the track. Going through water on slicks in a straight line isn't bad. That's fine. You just can't put the power down as well as you like to because you just spin up the rears. But going in a straight line, you can ease it into the power, and the tires will be able to take it. But you just can't put any wheel into it. Otherwise, then the rear end's going to want to come around a lot quicker than it would if it was in a straight line.
Got it. Okay. All right. So we're caught up there through Thursday, and Friday morning was the first real practice.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Friday afternoon
was the qualifying session. Yes, that was the qualifying session. Yep.
How did that go?
We were able to put the 5th fastest lap down for qualifying. It was truly our first real time at speed to really get acclimated with the track because obviously some guys were going fast in the wet tires. We were kind of just taking it easy, and then we finally got up to full song speed once qualifying happened. So that was our first time to actually feel what the car was like on dry conditions, as well as where our braking points were going into some corners and how fast could we take some of these corners. So it was kind of just like a learning session the entire time. But we still were able to put in a good fast lap to be able to get the fifth fastest. It was very tight up at the front. I think Kiffin Simpson was able to put in, I want to say it was a 121.1, if I'm mistaken. It was some kind of it was like 120 or 121 lap times that we were putting it down, or 19, somewhere around there. But he put down a 0.1. Second guy, I think, was Q-Son, if I'm not mistaken, which he put down a 0.3. Then it was like 2.4s, and then I got a 0.5. So it was all within like 3 or 4 tenths of each other. The whole top 5 was. Yeah. No, I think the top 10 were all within 1 second of each other. So it was really tight.
So you're on the radios. Are you talking to somebody on your team the entire time saying, now's the time to go fast, take it easy, how the tires, or are you getting feedback the entire time?
So I have obviously my mechanic that is basically my crew chief. I have my team principal who's on the radio. I have my engineer, and then I have one of our driver coaches on the radio who's somewhere around the racetrack. He doesn't tell us where, obviously, he's going to be. But, they're all around the racetrack kind of watching out for everything and just kind of keeping tabs on everything that's going on. So around, I want to say the 5th or 7th lap mark, I put in my fastest lap around my lap 5. And then after the 7th lap, we took the time we hit some lap traffic. So then we took the time to back off that lap and just kind of use it as a cool down lap to kind of cool the tires down, try to get some try to get the pressures down a little bit so that we could go ahead and do another run. So we waited that whole lap just to kind of get the tires down in pressure. And then as we came out of 10A and 10B, we got back on the power and got back going for another flyer lap to try to put down for our fastest lap.
Wow. So pretty good. So you went to bed fairly happy with your times on Friday night?
We knew we had a lot left in the car. I mean, it was like our first session on dry tires and on a very green track. So this was the first time to actually get a read on the car and what the car was doing. So for us, it was kind of pushing a little bit too much. So if you're talking about balance-wise, it was a little bit more on the tight side, which means the front end of the car is pushing and the rear end's not coming around, because that would create oversteer if the rear end's starting to come around. So we were pushing a little bit with the front, but you generally want to at Atlanta because a lot of the corners are kind of going downhill and uphill corners. So you don't want, the last thing you want in the high speed, because you're full throttle, is the rear to come around on you. And the next thing you know, you're having to either catch it or you don't have the confidence in yourself to go through some of these corners full throttle anymore. So you want to have a little bit of push in the car at a high speed track like Road Atlanta. So we finally got the chance to kind of see what the car was capable of, what it had in it, and then we kind of had to adjust it from there. So I think, we were pretty happy on where the car was right out the truck and where it felt, but we knew we had more speed in it and we just had to go get it.
Okay. That's great place to be, right? Great position to be in.
Oh, no, not bad. Yeah. I mean, just a little bit right in the mid pack, and we know, it'll only be like 3 or 4 tenths off of where the leader's doing, and we just figured out the car. It's a good spot. We know we're going to probably gain at least another 2 or 3 tenths on it too. So we knew we'd be riding the hunt when it came to race time.
Nice. And first race, Saturday morning.
Yeah. Saturday morning
was 2 races on Saturday. 2 races on Saturday, 1 on Sunday?
Yes. Yeah, we had 2 races scheduled for the Saturday and then 1 on the Sunday. So race 1 generally went really well for me. Well, I say really well. It was more of a roller coaster ride for me, I would say. Got off to a pretty good start. Started 5th and then was up to 4th off the jump going into turn 3. I want to say 2 laps in. I had Joshua Carr get to my inside, and we kind of touched wheels a little bit going through 10A, 10B. Just hard racing between both of us. And we were able to come through unscathed, obviously. So I dropped back to the 5th spot and then was starting to gain up on Q-Son again, going for 4th. And Hunter Yaney, I think, came to my inside. And we just kind of accidentally made a little bit of contact going into the corner. And it just kind of ultimately took us both out, which was unfortunate for both of us. But we had to get the car going again. I had to get a bunch of debris off my tires, a lot of the grass that I had from my rear tires and my front tires I had to get off, so I had to clean the tires a little bit down the backstretch when I got back going. But, I was starting to pick off the cars in front of me one by one. So I got all the way back down. I fell all the way back down to ninth and had to pick off, I want to say, 3 or 4 different cars in front of me to try to get back up to the spot I was in. So I went ahead past Ernie Francis Jr., went ahead past my teammate, past another guy, 2 other guys. One of them spun in front of me. The other one, I had to pull a couple of tricks up my sleeve to kind of get around him, but ultimately made it back up to the 4th spot to end the first race. So I went from 5th down to 9th, and then all the way from 9th back up to 4th.
How much of a roller coaster? I mean, you said roller coaster. Yeah. I mean, how much is that? Is it disheartening? Do you ever lose, kind of debrief, or what have I done? Or you just always I mean, you're going so fast, you're working so hard. Is it just pure focus when you're out there?
Yeah.
Like that happens. I'm just going to drive forward.
Yeah, no, it gets to a point to where it's very hard to focus, especially when you make a mistake or something, or you find yourself spinning out and taking yourself out of the race. Yeah, that's it gets to your head and everything, and you're like, well, now the race is over. It's screwed. What am I going to do? But luckily enough for me, when this incident happened, it was so early on the race, I think it was lap 3 or 4, that I knew that there was a lot of time left in the race to be able to make something happen. Now, it was going to be up to me based on my pace to see what I can do. So all I could do is just go drive as best I can. Just don't even look at lap times. Don't even look in my mirrors. Just focus forward and go do what you do the best, and that's just drive. So, and that was the thing with me. But what really motivated me the most was when you start getting going, and then you see just clear track, and then maybe 2 laps later, you start to see a car. You're like, all right, I could go get him because he's going to be in position. Then you pass him, you're like, all right, what's next? And then you look up the road and you see more cars. And then every lap, you just start to see yourself getting closer and closer and closer, and you're like, oh, we're going to actually make a charge back to the front here. And that's when it gets really fun, is when you start to see yourself start to get closer and closer and closer to all these cars, and you're reeling them in. Then you're starting to make your way back up towards the front and making a charge through the field. But that's when it gets really fun, is when that happens. So, at that point, once you start to see cars kind of start to come back to you, your mind kind of goes away from everything that's happened, and it kind of goes away from the wreck that happened or the spin, and it just kind of goes in the moment of what you're doing. And the one thing that you're thinking about is, how do I get this guy, and then how do I get around him as fast as I can? And that's just the art of passing when it comes out to someone, is how can I get to this guy and how can I get around him? Now, obviously, once you get to the front of the field, it gets tougher. And we knew we were a top 5, maybe a top 3 car. So we knew we were faster than probably half the field in front of us. So we knew all these guys that I was catching, I was much faster than. I just had to go put in the racecraft and the work to go get around them.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. From 5th to 9th to 4th. So in the first race in 4th, on Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, your guys' time up on the track comes around. And do you have time through the day to watch the other racing that's going on, the other different cars are racing, or are you staying pretty focused on data? I
mean, you're doing a little bit of both. I mean, your main focus obviously is worrying about your car. You're worrying about what your car needs to do better, what kind of adjustments can you make to make it better based on the past race run. And, you always want to study a little bit of video here and there to see what mistakes happened, what happened in the last race, what kind of situations did you put yourself in, and how can you learn and adapt. And so if that situation was to happen again, you would know how to handle a little bit better, and especially certain areas of the track. For example, there was one moment where in the first race where the 2 guys in front of me, for those of you who know Road Atlanta has a very, very long back straightaway, and you can get a really good draft off someone if you tuck up right behind them really good. Well, the FR cars can draft pretty well if you're very close to someone. So I was running in 4th, and the 2 guys in front of me decided to go side by side through turn 6 going into turn 7. Well, they both kind of bottled each other up on the entry, but both got a good exit, and they were drafting each other. But I got a really good exit to where I was able to suck up to both of them, and then they pulled out to go side by side down the back straightaway while I was still getting a draft. So I decided to, got a really good enough draft, and I thought about it, and so I pulled out to the left-hand side to try to make a 3 wide going into turn 10. But as we got to the braking zone, I hit the brakes a little bit early and thought better of it and backed off going into the corner. Well, they both went side by side into turn 10, and with these 2, the way the cars are, they had to slow their momentums a lot further, much more than when I was going into the corner, so it kind of stacked me up a little bit too. So the one thing I kind of learned was maybe I, use a little bit more initial brake pressure to slow my car up a little bit more, so when they kind of slow each other up, maybe I get a better exit off of them, and I can use that momentum that I carry later into the corner to help me on the exit. So that was just kind of a learning moment that I learned in watching video. So that could be applied for the next 2 races that were coming up in the weekend after seeing that. So that's something that you kind of just learn and you kind of just put in your back pocket for track knowledge and driver knowledge to use later on.
Yeah, so this race goes on, and you come. How many laps is the first 2 races same amount?
It varies in terms of laps because it's all a timed race. Yeah, they're all timed races. They're 35-minute timed races, so you can have a safety. F1. Yeah, you can have a safety car here and there, and next thing you know, you're doing less laps than you would in the first race. Luckily enough, both races went green the entire way. So we didn't have any safety cars or yellows to worry with. But, yeah, this race was kind of in the afternoon. I want to say there were around 25 laps, I would say, if it went green the entire way. So, but, yeah, we started third. Got a really good jump off the start. I had probably one of my better starts to the race from a standing start position, and was able to go to the inside and get a run on both guys in front of me and was able to take the lead going into turn 1. So I got to take the lead and had Kiffin Simpson behind me the entire time, and we both just kind of pulled away, and we made it a 2-horse race between us for the win throughout the course of the race. And I think we pulled out to a 12-second lead between us and third place.
Wow. And so overall, the second race you got?
Yeah, no, the second race I ended up finishing third. We set up the car a little bit more on the loose side this time because the car was pushing a little bit in race 1. It was still to my liking, so we made a couple adjustments to make the car a little bit looser. But we made it a little bit too loose to my liking, and I was just kind of, chasing the back end quite a bit. So when we went to turn 6, the rear end was kind of already falling over on itself. And what I mean by falling over is that it has so much load on the left rear tire that all the weight of the car is basically on the left rear. And as I was trying to get back to the throttle, when I got back to the throttle, it just kind of put too much load on the left rear, and it caused the left rear to kind of just give up a little bit, give up the traction that it had, and it just kind of sucked the rear end around a little bit. So I went for a little spin, got the car back going though, but unfortunately had to settle for third as the second place guy was able to get around me, and then we were able to have a little bit of a battle for second, but I had to settle for third as the race went on.
Okay, so 4th place. Now we're in 3rd place.
Yes.
In the second race. Saturday night, I'm sure a lot of reviewing, going over data, thinking about what the strategy is going to be. And so your position, which you started the second race, was that based on your fastest time in the first race? Is that how they do that? The
starting order for the next race is always based on your fastest lap in the race prior.
Gotcha.
So that's
why
how
you started.
Yep.
That's why you started third. And so where do you start in the last race on Sunday?
So I start second in the last race. So good enough for me. The good point for me is that it was raining all day on Sunday. And it rained all night into the morning and throughout the morning. And then they had the Trans Am race happen, and that's when it kind of stopped raining. Well, it stopped raining around noon. Our race was around 3 o'clock. Luckily enough for us, we had enough groups go in front of us, and especially with the Trans Am race being like an hour-and-a-half long race, they had enough time to kind of dry the track up. So by the time we got out there was a distinctive dry line for us. So we were going to start on rains, and then we made the switch over to slick tires to go out for our final race. Now, the interesting part is that where I was lined up, I was on the outside in the dry line, whereas Kiffin was going to be up on the inside in the wet line kind of. But when the race happened, it kind of dried off a little bit too. So he kind of had a little bit more of a dry area. So it kind of turned out to be working in both our favors instead of just mine.
Okay. So in that race, you guys stayed first and second the entire race?
Yeah, we were just nose to tail the entire time. I never lost sight of him. He never really gapped me a little bit. He was gapping me. He had a little bit better car than us in the very beginning of the race, but we just kind of pulled away from everybody on the start. But it was a pretty chaotic start, I will say. A couple guys tried to make some aggressive moves going into turn 1 and then up the hill into turn 3 as well. But we were able to, me and both Kiffin were able to pull away and just kind of settle the race amongst ourselves. And then Mother Nature decided to pull a little trick on us halfway through the race and decided to open up the skies a little bit and let the clouds rain on our parade going into between turn 10A all the way to turns 3 is where it rained. Everywhere else was dry. So the whole backside of the track was dry while the whole front part of the track was wet. So we had to manage our tires. We had to manage what lines to pick. So some of us were running the rain line. Some of us were taking it very conservative in some corners, but we had to find the grip. And especially with it being a quick rain shower, the track was drying up really quick, especially with our hot tires and how many cars were on track. So there was a point where we had to take it easy going into turn one. Next lap, we can go a little bit quicker. Next lap, we can go even quicker. But you had to find a distinctive line where all the grip was, because it was very wet by the apex. But if you went to the outer line, it was a little bit drier there. So you kind of had to just kind of find out where the grip was and see if the car would be able to take it by judging how much pressure you're putting down the throttle and if the rear end can take it.
Wow. So, yeah, as you said, excellent weekend. A fourth, a third, and a second.
Yep.
And leading the race a little bit of the time. So, yeah, sounds like it's a pretty good start to the FR America season, that's for sure.
That's what we were hoping for. We were hoping for a very good start to the year. You know, we wanted to, based off last year, we knew what could happen if you don't get a good start to the year. So we made it really crucial that our main goal was to try to get a good start to the season, and we were able to do that, come away with 45 points. That puts us second in the championship. Right now we're only 30 points behind Kiffin, who was able to sweep the weekend. So, you know, good for him to sweep the weekend, but it's now we know what we are up against, we have to do, so now we got to go get it.
Outstanding. Outstanding. All right, Jordan. Well, thank you. What's next? What's the next race?
Road America. We're coming up to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin on a beautiful, I believe it's, what? Is it 4 miles or 3 miles? I think it's 3.6, 3.5 or something like that.
It's long.
It's a long course. We know that. It's one of the longest, I think, in America. So raced there 2 years ago with Radical Cup, so I'm very excited to head back to Road America and everything, and it's going to be very close to us, so hoping to have a couple of guests and a couple of friends to come along with.
And when's that race?
That's going to be May 14th through the 16th, so second week of May.
All right. So 6 weeks off here for practicing and training, and so you're going to be primarily are you going to run the car and practice there at the Autobahn?
We may do a day or two. Not so sure yet on what we're going to be doing testing-wise. I think we're going to, from what I heard talks-wise, we're planning on doing maybe a test day here and there, maybe 1 or 2 test days before we go to Road America. I'm not sure what track, though, yet, but we got to work out all the details still. But, yeah, I'll be definitely around Autobahn, obviously, hanging out and doing all my other things around here, coaching a lot, too. So that'll be the main goal.
Outstanding. All right, Jordan. Thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, John. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Congratulations. And to find out more about Jordan Missig, just Google Jordan Missig or jordanmissigracing.com. And give a shout out to your sponsors, if you don't mind.
Oh, yes. No. Got to thank my sponsors, psacheck.org, who have recently just now put up a Facebook page. So please go over to Facebook, type in psacheck.org or psacheck, and go give them a like, please. They'll mean so much to us, so much to them, and so much to all of us as well. So, as well as Autobahn Country Club, opening day for them today. So they finally get some members back on the track, and the weather couldn't be nicer for them to have their opening day. So happy to see them guys having a good old day out here at the racetrack, and can't wait to get in touch with them in the next couple of days.
All right. Outstanding. Until next time, I'm John Graybill. That's Jordan Missig, and this is the MPG Podcast.